What's up, everybody? My name is Marcus. Many of you know me as Coach Marcus, Marcus Espinal Training. Tonight, I am here, and I am live with a special gentleman. He's a legend for the Danbury community. He's somebody who has had more than 45 years of experience as a coach, mentor, and trainer for the youth. And I have the privilege of presenting him today. So this is Gary Simone. Coach Gary, how you doing tonight?
Good, great. Thank you, Marcus. Thank you for that introduction. Um, I'm anxious to talk baseball and parents and the era of how we're doing with youth sports right now, and anything I can be of help to kids. That's why I'm here.
Well, Gary, I think that's why the good Lord sent you on the earth. Because one of the reasons why I'm here and I have such a special connection with Coach Gary is because he was my childhood coach. And I think as a player growing up, me amongst many others from the same town, Gary has had such an influential and impactful time with us, right? So a lot of the times people don't really know how to value coaching, but with what we're going to speak about here tonight, I know that he's the right guy to do so. So, Coach, apart from baseball, real quick, we know that you are involved in city council here at Danbury. You've been involved and you've been active. You worked a plethora of years also at Parks and Recs down in Easton, right?
hmm
And you started coaching. So I want to know how you got into it, if you can give us a brief summary, and just to tell the people a little bit about that.
Well, I started coaching back in 1976. I was a graduate of Springfield College, and it's funny because there was a little kid that was always hanging around the campus. He's waiting for his mother to get out of work, and he was by himself, and on the green at Springfield, and I sort of took a liking to him, and I'd meet with him every day at 4 or 5 o'clock, and I started you know hanging out with him, talking, playing, throwing the football around, and all that kind of stuff, and then I'd drive home and I'd pick up the paper when there was a paper, and they were looking for baseball coaches. And I loved baseball, and I thought I'd be decent at it. I like kids. I'm finding out I like kids. I was in the field of Parks and Recreation. That was my degree, and so I said, I'm going to give it a shot. And so in 1976, I had my first team, Danbury Building and Lumber Supply, way back when. We played right to the end of July. There was no travel teams. It was really a beautiful thing with no travel. That's a difference to show maybe. Uh, and I just started taking a liking to it. I knew right away once I started coaching those guys. We would practice 4 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday. I went to school. I just commuted back and forth from Springfield. I could come down here, go back, and go back, and I loved it. Hour and a half, and I just did it 4 days, 4 days a week, right till school got out, and then we went to the end of July, and the principal of Park Avenue School, Mr. Krafik, who I call Sparky, because he was a lefty and best Yankee, and then was Sparky Lau, was a big relief pitcher. And so, and the friendships that you made along the lines, because I was 21 years old, these kids were 12, so the age gap isn't, it's close considerably now. So I got it, I started loving it, and then God blessed me with three wonderful kids, and I said, Lord, give me one ball player, please, Lord. He gave me three. Uh,
And are those kids involved in baseball at all?
Yes, in fact, they're involved in coaching. Dave played professional ball over in Europe and Australia for Team USA versus Germany, and now he's the head baseball coach at Immaculate. He did 10 years at Abbott Tech.
Wow.
And I have the privilege of being, well, for you baseball people who know who Don Zimmer was, I'm Don Zimmer of Danbury. I have the honor, really, of sitting there and be the bench coach for Dave, and it's a blessing here. I get a chance to coach with my son. He's the head coach, very highly respected. So we went over Tech for 10 years, and now we're at Immaculate. That was Dave. Where Dave won 2 state championships, and in fact, all 3 of my boys played baseball there, and all have state championships, which I'm very proud of. But my oldest son, Anthony, is a head basketball coach at Abbott Tech. He too played baseball, and he loved baseball until a guy showed up in his life named Michael Jordan. And that went from baseball to basketball. And
Wow.
he played basketball and was all state in basketball. And he played left field and center field in baseball for Immaculate. Won their first state championship. And then my middle son is a football player in the family.
Sure.
And he's a coach in Orlando, Florida, health and fitness coach, because he owns a gym there. So Blue Bloods does cops, we do coaches.
Nice.
So that's how I got into it. And 51 years later, here I am, talking to one of my former players who I have quite a story I could tell you guys, but we'll
Later,
later.
later.
That's all right.
All right, all
Okay,
right,
yeah.
cool. Well, in the world of sports, coach, we know how it's important, especially for the kids' development, you name it, school, whatever. And a lot of the times, people, a lot of people can go after academics, people can go after all different types of activities and hobbies, but we stumbled upon baseball. And before you were a coach, you were actually a player, isn't that correct?
Yeah. I was wood bats. That's the ancient baseball. I know that, but I played with wood. I could hit. I'll be honest. I could hit, but I couldn't throw. I couldn't run. My defense was god awful. I was originally a DH before the DH was invented. To be honest with you, but I could hit. Uh, and then I was fortunate enough to play at Jacksonville University for a while till I wasn't good enough anymore. And I remember Richard Katz took care of that. He was 6'6", a right fielder. He could throw like a. My days were numbered when Richard showed up on campus, but I did get a chance to play down there, and it was a great experience. And my roommate was also my center fielder here at Immaculate. We both went down to Jacksonville. We had a good time. So yeah, I had a chance to play, and and then
And coach, what made you out of all the sports that were, and even the world of academia? I mean, what made you want to choose baseball?
We were kids, and this is why I would never give up my childhood for anybody. It was the one game where we all played in the backyard together. Basketball wasn't very big back in that. Remember, basketball wasn't big until Jordan and not excuse me, Magic got on with Magic and Bird. That's when basketball really took off. Fans
Late
watching
80s.
it, the late '80s. So basketball wasn't a big deal back in those days. It really wasn't. You have a couple CYO leagues and stuff like that, but so we played in the backyard, and man, and that's why I got interested. We played King Street versus Bel Air Drive versus Patch Street. The rivalries, the friendships, I would never trade it for anything because there's nothing near like that nowadays. So that's how I got into baseball, and then I just loved it.
Sure. And I like how you mentioned the basketball guys because everybody has an idol growing up, right? Everybody has somebody who they look up to. In fact, even myself, um, my middle name, excuse me, is Jordan, and my oldest brother, one of the older guys, he had said that he wanted to name me Michael, and my mom wasn't having it. So instead of my name being Michael Jordan Espinal, my name is Marcus Jordan. So you could tell how that rubbed off.
Yeah, my idol, I can tell you what my idol was. It was everybody's idol back in the '60s and '50s, and when I was Mickey Mantle. I remember going down to Yankee Stadium. I saw Mickey hit a home run in the old stadium. We're old and more old than you guys. And back in those days, you could walk out onto the field on the clay on the outskirts, walk out to center field and exit that way. So I would go that way, and I would stand out in center field on the clay, and I'm saying to myself, 15 yards in front of me, that's where I'll be standing someday. The Mick stood there, Joe DiMaggio stood there, I got all the way down the line. Babe Ruth was over here, and I'm going to be out the next one. I saw the triple deck and stuff like that. I could see it like it was yesterday. Uh, but it didn't work out. Like I tell you, like I tell all you guys.
Well, we're glad it didn't, right?
Well, yes, because I wouldn't be the coach I was today, and that was helped me. But as I tell you guys, and I tell all my players, sooner or later, they take the uniform from you. I don't care if you're Derek Jeter, Babe Ruth, they take the uniform from you. So sometimes you take it when you're 10, sometimes they take it when you're 21, sometimes you take it when they're 37. But sooner or later, you got to give the uniform back. So I never lost sight of that.
Well, like I said, we're glad that it didn't really pan out for you, Coach, because there would have been a humongous hole here in the city of Danbury.
Thank you.
But yeah, Coach, as everybody grew up and they had their person, you had the Mick, and I had my people growing up too. When did you realize that you wanted to enter into this world of coaching and put your playing career behind yourself?
This is what happened. I'll tell you a little personal thing. I grew up in an era, your parents worked, 50, 60 hours a week. So my dad didn't get a chance to see me play and stuff. And that left a hole in me. That really did. That really affected me, because he was working and he provided a great life for us. And that's the way it was back in the 50s and 60s and whatnot. But one of the things that really, really got to me is I was looking for something where I could make a difference. I wanted to make a difference in these kids' lives. no matter how small or how large. And when I got onto the field and started coaching, and okay, I hit great fungos, I threw a great batting practice, and all that kind of stuff. I also found myself being like that Field of Dreams, and Burt Lancaster is, when he walks on the field, he's a 21-year-old rookie.
Oh yeah.
When he walks off the field, he's a 70-year-old man.
Oh yeah.
Well, me, it's just the reverse. I walk on the field, and I'm 12, 13 years old playing with a bunch of other kids. I joined right in on it, and then when I go back home in my car, I'm 70 years old, and my knees killing me, my shoulders killing me,
Nice.
and all that kind of stuff. So I found out that I had fun playing with the kids,
Sure.
but yes, I had the gift of them respecting me and realizing that, hey, listen, I'm here because I care about them, I love them, and over the years, I just, I realized that it was a gift that was given to me, to do this, and I'm gonna keep coaching till the good Lord says, come on, come on. I just fired Billy Martin, so
Be a
Billy,
third
don't
base
get
coach.
fired.
Great. That's a great point, and I love how you mentioned, just talking about your upbringing, because I'm sure that inside of your heart you wanted somebody to support you, and somebody to keep you going. So, Coach, now that we're talking about it, how many times have you seen players of your own come to you and they don't have a parent to really pick them up or drop them off? They don't have a parent that's in the stands calling on to them. Do you think that that has had any type of impact in your life so that you can play a role in theirs?
No, yeah, absolutely, definitely. Now you're really hitting it hard. Um, I didn't. I felt growing up I didn't have a childhood in a way. Because I didn't. Never mind my dad. I didn't have any good coaches. I can't tell you one guy who coached me. In baseball. That goes high school, Babe Ruth, Little League. I can't remember anybody. I can't remember anybody. And I had to teach myself. I read Sports Illustrated. I read Ted Williams' article about the art of hitting. Taught myself to throw. We all did it in the neighborhood. I had no coaching. I didn't have a mentor. And the coaches, if you're a good coach, you're a mentor first, and a coach second.
Correct.
And you don't get a lot of that nowadays. But to get back to what your point was, I didn't want another kid to go through what I went through, because it was hard. Somebody's not in the stands. Parents are in the stands. Someone's not there, whether anybody's not there, and you go home alone, and you watch. And this is another thing I remember like it was yesterday. You're watching the other kids, the fathers are there talking to them, they're playing catch after the game. I'll give you another little secret. Everybody sees Field of Dreams. To this day, I'll be 72 in January. To this day, I still cry at the end of that movie. The scene that I cry of, well, Costner goes asks his dad, "Hey, Dad, you want to have a catch?" And to this day, I'll tear up because I never had a catch with my dad. Never had a catch with my dad, and luckily I'm a father of three boys, and believe me, we've had a lot of catches,
Yeah.
and a lot of BP, and a lot of time together. So maybe, but then again, if things were different. You never know. I'm glad that
Yeah.
my dad did the best he could, but it was a different era. But I did have a huge effect on me. So yes, to answer your question, I've coached basketball back in the early 2000s in junior high. Seen a lot of kids come from
Yeah.
empty homes.
And,
You know,
and, and to piggyback off of that real quick, do you think that if you did have, like I said, like that father figure, do you think that your career would have been much different?
yeah, it could have been. I could have gone into broadcasting. I could have a lot of avenues. I did not think I was going to be coaching for 51 years, to be honest with you, when I first started out. Uh, but I always got, again, God blessed me with the three boys, so I was involved with them. I coached them. And it's just, and now it's even more so that, somebody, a parent will come up to me and says, "Man, you gave your son, my son so much." And I say, "Well, wait a minute, ma'am. Yes, I gave your son a lot. But what he gave me back was 10 times what I gave him." And that's how I really feel now. Especially when you're 72 and the ship's about ready to dock at some point. Now it's even more precious.
Correct.
Those things. I'll be in the third base box and I'll look up in the sky and say, "Damn, Lord, this is effing good." Yeah, and it is. And I thank him for it, because there's another night that was really special.
Sure.
And I never take those things for granted. And I try to encourage the parents that these years, 10, 11, 12, they go by in a heartbeat. And trust me, your heart's gonna break when you're sending your son off to college or daughter off to college, and And next thing you know, you're gonna
Yeah.
miss these days. So enjoy. Don't worry about whether you got a hit or didn't get a hit. I tell parents all the time, when little Johnny or Billy gets in the car, you don't want to say how'd you strike out the last at bat or
Yeah.
how. No, you say, hey, I love watching you play. Not watching you get hit. I love watching you play. I like watching you run around. I like watching you throwing the ball to your
Sure.
friend Joey. All the camaraderie. That's what I love. Oh, you didn't get hit today? Oh, I didn't notice. Come on now. What kind of ice cream you want?
Hmm.
That's how you enjoy your kids. Not manipulating them, manipulating the coach and all that kind of stuff. Remember, the coach is doing the best he can. He's a volunteer.
Sure.
Chances are he's over his head on a lot of this stuff now.
It isn't.
Post COVID, the kids are totally different. It's a different era kid than coaching now than it was back in the 70s and 80s and even early 2000s. It's much more challenging to coach now than
Hmm.
any other time I've been involved.
I'm glad that you were able to be so blunt, because in my upbringing, I'm the youngest of four boys, and we were all talented. By the grace of God, we were all able to play different sports, but I was just lucky enough to have, so I'm the baby. So I had my older brother, the one that was right before me, just so happened to be one of the most talented kids who's played baseball in Danbury, and you remember him, CJ. And him being the one closest to age to me, it was difficult for my father to put me in summer ball because he was always traveling with you guys.
Yeah.
And sometimes it gets a little bit difficult
Yeah,
to
it
try
does. It does.
and put two players, two kids, instead of just one. So I remember that I had to sit out. I mean, a few years, you know what I mean, and just watch. And there was this one year that really stuck with me because, honestly, yes, I did have the desire to play, but I understood the situation. Growing up as a young ball player and being so young, I think it's very important that parents express what happens within the house, why certain things cannot happen, and give the players, in this case their children, a clear understanding of not only how baseball is, right, but how the world works,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yes.
And so I think that from a two coach standpoint or view for you guys, I think it's essential for all of our parents watching that the communication factor grows, right? And the clarity can grow from parent to child. And the reason being is that if you have a son, if you have a daughter that is in baseball, that is in softball, you should try and keep them up to date as much as possible. And, Coach, I want to ask you a question about that because I know that throughout your years of experience, you've had to encounter a whole number of parents.
Mm-hmm.
Parents, if you're
Yes.
watching this, God bless you. We don't hate you. It's just sometimes hard to communicate with you, right? but
It's very difficult.
it can be very difficult. So,
Yes.
Coach, I want you to talk about real quick the importance of a coach being a coach, but emphasize the necessity of a parent being a parent.
This is the thing. You know, work with the parent, and parent work with the coach. The what we're dealing with right now with kids, what I've dealt with this now more than ever, especially post COVID, is the anxiety in these kids is off the charts. They can't look at you in the eye. My players do because they're trained first day of practice. I grab you by the head and look me right in the eye, But again, I'm old school and old at the same time. But we got to work together. And then there's some issues, mental health issues that I need to be aware of because I could help that kid. If I don't know him, then it's not a good thing. So you got to be honest with the coach, sit down. And parents, learn to let go. All right? Let the kid fail. You learn by your failures. Little Johnny hits a home run. He's not learning anything. Right? He's happy. He's high-fiving everybody. Let's see how little Johnny does when he's 0 for 4 with 3 strikeouts.
Now, Coach, you said learn to let go. How can a parent learn to let go? Could you just emphasize a little bit there?
What you learn to let go is this way. You say, I got to learn to let go because what he's learning right now is going to benefit him down the road. Now he doesn't like the coach. Well, what happens when you get into college? There's a professor you don't like.
Can't choose
Well, what about if you go to a job and your boss you don't like? Or your spouse you're having an issue with? Where are your coping skills? You learn them on the field. And if you got little mom or dad helicoptering in and saving little Johnny's butt, you're doing him a disservice. He's not going to learn how to cope in English class. He's not going to learn how to cope in math class.
Sure.
He learns to cope on the ball field or the basketball court or the football gridiron. That's what he's going to learn. And use this as a learning thing. Don't sit there and say, well, I want him to play D1. I want him to play college ball. Christ's sake, he's only 11 years old. He may not even play baseball when he's 13 years old. He may be out of baseball when he's 12. After 12, things happen. I can't tell you the number of kids that didn't play after Little League. We call them Little League legends, right? It's a nickname for them. They never played past 13 years old. People change. The taste change. Their desires change. So just sit back and enjoy it. But use that as life lessons for the kid. There's enough life lessons in every game that on the ride home, you could educate your child more than any teacher can.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that's great. As you were speaking, I was just getting so passionate because it's true. A lot of the times parents, and I had this one guy one time come up to me and he was just furious because his son I kept him in the game and his son wanted to keep going, but he had other plans. It's one thing for a coach to handle a pitching staff, a pitch count, a game, but it's another thing for you as a parent to know what it is that is exactly going on, right? Um, we can discuss, we can talk about certain things, but there's also things that coaches reserve, right? And coach, as you were talking there, I was brought back to your childhood because you were talking about how great it would have been if you would have had that support, right, from your father. And I think that kids nowadays, they're running out of patience with their own family members, with their own parents, because now instead of a child who's 12, 13 years old, go into his car after a game and hear his father or mother say to them, "Hey, you know what? Good job today. I know it may have not have been your best day, and but you know what? Let's get better for the next one. Let's get our minds off of it. Let's go do something. Let's go home and let's go watch a movie, something like that. But something that's good to give them that support, right, coach? And I think it's extremely important because a lot of times they don't have that safe space anymore. And in today's society, as parents want their children to be great at whatever it is that they do, and especially in the sport of baseball and softball, parents need to adopt the mentality of being the caregivers. Because a lot of the times what ends up happening is that the child is receiving instruction from the coach, but then the parent is taking off the instruction that he's receiving from his coach, and the parent then wants to implement his own instruction. So then we have confusion within the kids. Then the kids don't have peace within their coach and then within their parents, and they're running down a whole different path, and they can't perform the way they want to perform. And so, coach, what are your experiences, and what do you think about things like that?
Well, one thing parents got to realize is that little Johnny or little Billy or little Sally, they always want to please their parents. And after a game, he didn't have, say, little Johnny didn't have success. He went 0 for 4, over 3, couple errors, right? The last thing the parent needs to do is pile on, because what's going to happen is he will quit the sport because he's thinking, I go out there and play, all I'm doing is upsetting my parents. I've seen kids, a lot of kids quit the sport because of that reason, all right? Or they'll get burnt out, all right? Or they realize that it's not their dream, it's their parents' dream.
Correct.
So you got to be careful. And like I said, make sure, I made a rule for my kids, and I made a rule for all my players. And Marcus will tell you, I attest to it. You play hard. That's the only thing you have control over is your attitude and is your ability to hustle. It takes no talent to hustle. So if I'm watching you and I don't allow bad body language, put your head down, all that crap, right? You strike out, you jog back, put the bat down, cheer on your other guys. That's what you can control as a player, all right? And it takes no, and if you're takes no talent to hustle, takes no talent to be respectful,
Sure.
and no talent to keep battling. If you can instill those qualities in your players, they're already ahead of 90% of the other kids who aren't playing sports.
And even on the parent side, coach, I want to speak again to the parents because I think parents need to do a better job at absorbing, right?
Not so much absorbing. They got to do a better job of listening and letting go. The parents aren't baseball people. They don't know a lot of this stuff. We're trying to educate them. But trust me when I tell you guys, because I've been doing this, will be my 52nd year, God willing, going into it. Sit back and just enjoy him being on the field, that he's healthy. Gratitude list, right? That he's healthy, that he can run, that he can throw, and that he's making friends. They're going to be lifelong friends. That's a home run right there, excuse the pun, right? So the thing is, just let them play, right? One of the things we liked in our days, all our parents were working. No parents were at the game, and we had a blast, right? We're all in the same boat, okay, but we didn't have any pressure. We didn't get home, and my dad say, "Hey, how many hits you get today?" No, neither did my guy next door. Neither did my other neighbor on the other side. They didn't care what we would, you know. And I did. I tell you one time, I was all bummed out. I was upset, and something happened. I don't know what exactly it was. And I said, I don't know, Dad. I didn't play today. He sat me, benched me. And the coach sucks, this and that. Can you go say something to the coach? That kind of conversation. My father goes, Nah, I'm not going to say anything to the coach. He goes, You must suck. Go out and practice more. Now, can you imagine? How many parents give that advice to their kid, right? No, you're not. You must be that good. Go practice more. That was the message. Case closed. So from then on, you know, if I was gonna be good, I had to go practice. And that's another thing kids don't do today. Let me ask you something. How many times you drive home, right, and you got a basketball hoop in the yard, and there's dust all over it. There's no basketball. It's in the garage right where it was left 3 weeks ago. He got a bat. He's got a tee. Is he out there and take 100 swings off his bat every day, 7 days a week? How many of those guys doing that? You want to encourage somebody? Encourage your child to have the discipline to practice, because then he'll have the discipline when he goes to school to study. He'll have the discipline in work. He'll have a discipline in his marriage. Develop those skills. The hitting and pitching, don't worry about that stuff. Develop the skills that he will take with him after he's done playing ball. And he can be done playing ball when he's 12 years old. He can be done playing when he's 10. I've seen kids quit when they were 10 years old. So develop those skills. Develop, how to deal with the adversary. How about that one? Instead of swooping in and saving his butt, tell him to figure it out himself.
Sure.
A lot of parents don't have that discipline. They got to save him. So.
And a lot of times, parents, and you said it perfect, they're trying to coach.
Right.
They're trying to save their children from not having to go through things. And for as big as your aspiration may be for your child to advance into the higher levels of the game of baseball and or softball, it will not happen that way. And I'm sure Coach Gary can attest to that, and life attests to it as well. So super interesting, because now we are forced, right? Our hands is forced because we can't do our job. And the conflict that is brought up between a parent and a coach and a child is super, super big, because now the poor kid cannot enjoy the game. And when the kid can't enjoy the game, he looks for other outlets. And I'm sure Coach has seen a plethora of kids who have not stuck the course because of the conflict between parent and coach. Coach, have you seen some of those kids who started off playing baseball, and then you seen them out there, and you see them on, I don't know, Spring Street or maybe White Street or Elm Street, and you're saying to yourself, what happened to this guy? And you realize the grave effects of what it is between a coach and a parent.
I've been blessed. I haven't seen my guys, and I always say my guys because I say my guys. If you were with me in 1976, or if you were with me last year in 2025, they are my guys. When I have somebody, they are my guys. They're all like my fourth son. Luckily, I've only had one or two of my guys who went down the bad path. I have seen kids from other programs, from other coaching or lack of coaching, go that distance, go that way, and it's sad. It's unfortunate. I tell coaches this, and listen, we have trouble getting coaches, and now you go to the club teams, and that's a whole different discussion. But I tell coaches this, guys, little Johnny or Billy or Sally is going to remember you, and there's not going to be no gray area. Either you're going to be good as a coach, or you're going to suck. There's no gray area. What area do you want to be in? Unfortunately, the lack of volunteerism, the lack of number of people knocking on the door to help out is non-existent right now. What I've seen, that's a crisis that no one talks about. Is we're not getting quality volunteers. They're good people, they mean well, but again, they're not knowledgeable enough in the game. And unfortunately, one of my pet peeves is they never go out and they won't ask for help.
Sure.
You'll get a guy like myself with 51 years experience. No one this year asked my opinion.
Yeah.
And for various things. All right. Travel's a different story. My coaching staff knows we had a great travel team, great coaching staff and stuff. But I was fortunate because 50 years experience does, you find a few, even a blind squirrel finds an acorn. So I found a lot of acorns this year.
Sure. Good.
So,
Good. And I'm glad you said that because even 4 or 5 is a little bit too much sometimes, right, Coach?
hmm
As a coach, we can't really force kids to come to practice and play, but
well, that no, see,
we
that's the
can
thing.
enhance
That's the thing
attitude.
that's upsetting. And this is the way the parents have control over. Kids not coming to practice.
Hmm.
Back when I started, never an issue.
Hmm.
Now it's an issue.
Hmm.
I got coaches telling me, well, Gary, I only have 5 guys show up. 5 guys. So now what happens is the parents, it's like a smorgasbord. Little Johnny's got to do flag football. He's got to do baseball. Let's throw some basketball in there, too.
Yeah.
So they're playing 3 sports in one season.
Sure.
And it's not fair on anybody. It's not fair on each team that he's missing. It's not fair on the coach that's volunteering his time. So that parent is not teaching that kid about commitment.
Sure.
How can you teach that kid about commitment? He's a very vulnerable age. When he says, well, if I'm just going to miss this practice, no big deal. Well, if I don't go to work, no big deal. If I don't go to class, no big deal. Because guess what? When I was 10, 11, 12, I was missing a lot of stuff, but I got through it. They're not teaching them commitment.
Yeah.
And they think they got to do everything.
That's
And they
it.
got to realize
That's
that is a waste of time. And you're doing a detriment to your kid. You're not helping them.
And just to piggyback, because where my big issue lies is where parents want to stop the kid because the parent thinks that they are coaches themselves. And the number one thing that people have to realize is that yes, we may be your child's 12-year-old summer ball coach, but we deserve just as much as respect as anybody else. And when a lesson is being taught by Derek Jeter or by your local Gary Simone, it should be taken in with as much respect as anybody else. And the issue lies, and Coach, I know you're gonna start talking about this, but this is where we see problems arise because there's now conflicts between parents, the children, and now the coach. And it's further than instruction; it has much more to do with respect.
Well, see, I worked there. I'm fortunate. I'm older than some of all these parents right now. So I'm a different, atmosphere, so to speak. So I made it very simple. You don't listen to how I want things done. You don't play. The power of the bench. You know, you got one program and it's ours. Now when you're on that field, you're mine. When you get off that field, you're the parents. I have no control over that. So if he's a little, you know, so wherever he's teaching them at home, that's okay. Then when I get home, when I get back to the field, then we got to do it the way we're supposed to be doing it. And I think one of the things that a successful coach you'll find is that he sticks with that. And he also sticks with the power of the bench, that he rewards people for attending, assures people for showing up, towards people for hard work. And the thing is, they get too caught up. A lot of the coaches now they get too caught up in wins. You got the club ball, they're going all these tournaments and stuff like that. Are we developing players? And how are we developing players? Right? It's not about the wins and W's and all that kind of stuff. It's all, are we developing them? So when that pro kid leaves my program, leaves my team, what skills did I give him to be a young man? That's how I look back and say that I have a successful year, right? All right, and I had a very successful year last year because I see these kids now. They got good work ethics. They're trying to get stronger. They're good to each other. They're you're polite young men, all that kind of good stuff, and that's what it comes down to. Because I gotta tell you something, even to play at the D3 level, you're lucky if you get 1% of the 1%.
Very, very tough. I think that's great because unfortunately now people don't know what it costs, right? People don't know what the price that it is that they have to pay. And even parents. I mean, parents are just as important as the child because whatever the child is consuming right here in between the ears is going to be what grows within them and what's going to either give him the confidence or the doubt so that he can go out there and be a great baseball player or that she can go out there and be a great softball player. And I think it's extremely important. Number one, also, I want to talk really quickly about communication because parents, for as great as your desire may be, it's super important that you learn how to communicate to the child because if everything is hate, if everything is you should have done better, if everything is, maybe you should think about quitting, right? Because I've heard that before by some parents, and it's not the best thing. as far as inspiration is concerned. Um, how we see situations like these really take a kid's career and really throw it down the drain. So, Coach, what would you suggest for the parents in regards to
You know,
that?
I run a little thing. I meet with the parents. I meet with them once before the season starts, and uh, and I just tell them simply, how do you want to enjoy your child's athletic career, whether it be baseball at 10, 11, 12, or high school when they're 14, 15, 16. And I say the same thing. Go there and sit down and just enjoy. Don't say, okay, he's not going to get 2 hits. He's not going to get a scholarship to play baseball or WestCon or UConn or everything in between. It's not about that. It's about what has he learned. Use each game as a learning experience. How to deal with adversary, how to deal with success, how to deal with teammates. Don't worry about what's going to happen. Is he going to be good enough? His dreams here. That'll all take care of itself. Don't chase it. Just let him enjoy his friends. Because at the end of the day, 10 years from now, when they're all sitting down at a local eatery or Pippa's or something like that, they're talking about. They're not talking about a special game that they played on July 3rd or 7th or 8th. They don't remember the game. They remember the bus rides, or they remember the car rides. They'll remember screwing around in the dugout. They're going to remember that. The regular season games, particular games, or even tournaments, they don't remember them, but they remember the camaraderie. They remember the friendship. They remember busting each other's chops. That's what it's all about. Raise good kids, and use baseball.
Don't spoil it for them.
No, and don't screw it up. And they will screw it up. Just sit back and enjoy it, because these days go by quick. So anyway,
Thank you.
I gotta run.
So yes, so Coach, thank you for your
Thank
time.
you.
This is Marcus Espinal Training. We just want to thank all you guys, and remember, um, as far as information and knowledge about the game is concerned, I'm your outlet, and I'm here to give you guys all the information that you guys need. Thank you so much, and stay tuned because there's going to be more information coming out on my channel.